take!
I'm Ilana Razbash, and this is Radio Architecture.
Good evening from beautiful Bunurong country. I am so lucky to be able to live, work, play and broadcast to you live on Radio Carrum from this amazing place, the Carrum Swamp. If you'd like to join the conversation this evening and text any questions, then studio number is 0493 213 831. And my conversation partner this evening is Monique Woodward, co-founder of award-winning Melbourne and Perth-based practice Wowowa Architecture, which was founded in 2010. After sitting on the Victorian Chapter Council for 6 years, Monique is currently a National Councillor of the Australian Institute of Architects. Monique was the recipient of the Institute's 2018 National Emerging Architects Prize and co-curated their 2019 National Architecture Conference, Collective Agency. She has sat on multiple state and national juries, taught at both RMIT and Monash universities, and was a personal investor in the Nightingale Village. Wowowa is known for its colourful and deliciously textured residential projects, as well as its robust and playful school buildings and multi-residential communities. As a certified B Corp practice, they champion country, joy, advocacy, sustainability, and a deep sense of storytelling. Welcome to the program, Monique.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad to have you on. I can't wait for this conversation. I think we're going to have as much fun as what your buildings look like and the magical worlds that you create. So I can't wait to explore that, really. You know my first question that I do like to ask all my guests, but I'm going to sneak another one in there first.
What?
I want to ask, why architecture?
Why architecture? Well, actually, I wanted to do advertising and then did work experience, and I feel like they just sat in their chair all day, weirdly. And so I was like, I can't do advertising. I did work experience again, was meant to be in the interior design department, then ended up in the architecture department because there was a crossover or something. And then ended up sitting with this amazing group of 5 architects who had just been recruited from RMIT. They were sort of Mel Bright, John Paul Rollo, Fraser Paxton.
Where was this?
It was at Bruce Henderson Architects in South Yarra. And basically I just fell in love. And Mel of Studio Bright, she said, do architecture. And I said, okay, I want to be you in every way. And so she said, go to RMIT. So I did. And she got me my first job at Lab, who did Federation Square. And yeah, the rest is... and then
that's where I did work experience in year 10.
Love that. Love that. It was a great place to work. But yeah, I've just followed Mel around ever since.
It's important to have those mentors and exemplars and people to champion you through. Who else would you say has been a real pillar of strength and support throughout your journey?
Oh, I have so many mentors, and that's why I make such a big effort to have mentees as well, and, you know, see myself in that kind of ladder of, you know, standing on the shoulders of giants, and that I want others to, you know, be better than me, and to facilitate that, I guess. Yeah, I have a lot of mentors. I have a lot of pseudo mums as well. Like Cecile Weldon, who I chatted today with. I'm writing a big article on identity and I wanted her thoughts. So I just called her up and we had a big yarn, and that was beautiful. But yeah, I guess my lady architects are, you know, Claire Cousins, Amy Muir. They've been such huge supporters of me and friends. And then, yeah, I guess Kirsten Thompson is like the shining light. You know, Rachel Nolan is just a delight. So, yeah, a lot of powerhouse women.
Strong exemplars. You're so great. Something I really see come through in your work and the way you communicate about your work as well is you're so great at identifying the lineage that you fit into and your practice Wowowa fits into. And often you talk about postmodernism. A lot of people don't know what that means, actually. Can you explain the style for us?
I guess it's around irony and storytelling for me. The story listening and the storytelling is the most important part of that. But yeah, I guess, I had a friend from overseas come here and he was like, you know what, I realized that like at some point in time, Melbourne architects stopped looking outside of themselves. Like they stopped looking to the cultural centre or to anything else, and they became very self-referential. And I thought that was a really nice kind of analysis of the Melbourne architecture scene, starting with Peter Corrigan. And then, I worked at ARM. Their work is, so playful and always telling a story and saying something political or otherwise. And yeah, I worked at Cassandra Complex. And again, just so colourful and exuberant and full of stories and narratives and context. Really deep understanding of context, but in a really unexpected way, and the surprise and the spectacle. All of that. Yeah, I do very much see ourselves as part of some kind of lineage.
I'll return back to the work and projects of Wawawa and how you bring your clients along in on those journeys. Because when we talk about the Melbourne kind of self-referential architectural scene and those in-jokes like Melbourne Yellow, it's not available necessarily for the public. And you've done great things in being able to talk to the public as well.
Yep.
But before we delve deeper, I do want to ask a question that I'm particularly curious about with all my guests, and that's, what's your earliest memory of a building or place?
I articulated that my earliest memory was rolling pencils off. We lived in Circular Quay in Sydney, and I've got these great photos of the centenary celebrations with the Opera House and, the bridge in the background. But yeah, we were quite high up, and I rolled the pencils off the very high balcony, and Mum had to go down and get them, and I'd do it again. And I don't know why she gave me the pencils back, but to me that was the best game.
Were you being a menace with colour?
True. Yep. So, and then my parents bought this like kind of abandoned brothel in Concord, and then they did it up, and it was in pink and like a navy colour, and I realised that in our work we use a lot of heirloom colours that actually they did in the 80s. I'm really just circling back to my childhood house.
It's interesting, right, how those threads and circles of our journey return, and then there's always a memory and always an association with colour that travels with us.
Yeah.
Would you say some more about your passion and interest for colour that has emerged in Wawawa?
I think, again, it did sort of come out of the lineage of offices that we worked in and the permission to indulge in colour and playfulness. And so it really seemed like a no-brainer when we got our first commission that we would, we would determine that our work would be for clients. It wouldn't be, this sort of ego investigation of ourselves, and that it would reflect them instead of us. I feel like that was a real zeitgeist sort of shift at the time. Or that's how I felt it should be. And
for the actual people living there
and
using it.
Crazy, right?
Crazy.
That it should be a reflection of them and not us. And so really I asked them to tell us stories and show us heirlooms of things that were special to them. And I asked them, what if there was a sort of colorway that they were that they wanted, was there an animal that represented that for them? And so it sort of launched this whole, we call it spirit stacks now, but at the time it was a spirit animal. And the very first client said that their spirit animal was a rainbow trout. And so really their house became a rainbow trout.
Amazing.
So it was, like the nuance within animals, the colour stories that are available if you kind of pick at them are incredible. And so it gave me a lot of confidence to say, well, the rainbow trout looks beautiful. So if I stick to the rainbow trout or, whatever animal the client would choose, I'm like, well, obviously it's going to work. So
The colour palettes in nature are extremely validating as well.
Yeah.
They're beautiful combinations, and they're combinations that we don't judge. We don't say that, oh, that's a lot, or that's not going to sell well.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Is that going to date? Is that canary going to date? No. So I think, but then we sort of, from a, an intellectual, a cultural intellectual property perspective, ISIP, we moved to more spirit snacks. So it was around like what sort of culinary delight would you pick? And, because again, like the dishes that are created by, very talented chefs obviously have a whole range and gamut of wonderful colours and textures. And so
they say we start tasting through our eyes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's salivating over the meal. We want you to, see our renovation and salivate.
As the experience begins in the kitchen before you've even started cooking.
Because the kitchen is the heart of the home. It's the workhorse. It's the infrastructure that we work the hardest on when we're doing a renovation because, it needs to be everything to everyone. It needs to be a charging station. It needs to be, partially a study if there's no study, like a study nook, or it needs to be where the bags come in and where, where people sit and where the soiree happens and where the, emotional conversations happen, right? You're like crying in the kitchen. I don't know. I feel like maybe that's what I do.
Crying,
like, let's talk
dancing.
deep. Let's talk deep. Or dancing on the island bench. Like, that's what you need. So it's where life is.
I feel like in many ways your work transcends this discussion of for colour against colour, for market value, for not market value. You just reject it completely, and you do what you do, and your clients come to you because you do that so well. But I'm wondering if I can ask you to please comment on why colour is so important.
I guess it's a creative expression, of us and our clients. I think it's important to live in colour because it grounds us. I think, recently we painted our house. It's open soon for Melbourne Open House, and I realised that we'd just painted the front in undercoat because we hadn't got to it. We were renovating the front bit ourselves, and I was like, "What are we doing living in this white house? Like, it's so strange." And I'm like, "No, we've got to paint it all." And I just realised how big a difference it made. And I'm like, I preach this all day. Why am I living in this white house or white bedroom? And we painted it a gorgeous kind of deep mustard yellow colour, and it just feels like home instantly. Like, my daughter, she's 4, she was on the paint, roller as well. And it was just a really fun experience to do that. But I'm like, that is the joy and delight of colour.
It finds your home and it brings you back to what is your home. It brings you back to you.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting as well because when I was on exchange in Copenhagen in my master's, I stayed in this kind of fairy tale castle. Like everyone else was staying in these like crazy share houses, but for some weird reason I got assigned to live in basically a cupboard within this like castle owned by this old lady, and there was a bunch of different students there, and her house was just painted every room was a different color, and I had this fantasy that I would always like do that for myself. And so it was nice to sort of paint my bedroom the color that was my Copenhagen, my Danish bedroom color. So it felt really like a nice little loop.
Nice little loop to that formative tone. What other colors do you have in your home? I am extremely curious.
The hallway is kind of a cinnamon. So if our bedroom's kind of a ginger, and then my daughter's bedroom's a lavender, which is really lovely. And then the back is kind of renovated, so it's our magic house on our website, and that is I designed it when I was on maternity leave, so it was designed to be very womb-like.
It's like pink, deep pink, plum, red.
Yeah. So a lot of sort of magentas and deep purples, and that heirloom sort of pink colour that Mum painted her house in the 80s. And it was meant to be very kind of soothing and grounding and sacred and safe. And someone was like, "What was the spirit snack for that? Like your placenta?" I'm like, "That is, yes." Let's just say yes. That's both terrifying.
Say yes and make direct eye contact.
Exactly. Like, why not? But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like architecture, like, does speak to a time and a place when it was created. And, for us, or for me, like, designing my own renovation was really one of the most challenging things that I'd ever done, because we were always designing for clients who would always say yes, no, no, too much. Oh, keep going, more crazy. The clients that are coming to us now are just like more of everything. Like, they just want the embellishment. Like, the house that we're designing at the minute really is our piece de resistance. Like, I don't think we could do a better house. It's more ornate. Like, it's just the clients like more color, more ornamentation, more everything. And we've just gone to absolute town. And I'm really proud of that. But yeah, my own house was just, when you're just designing for you, you're kind of plumbing the depths of your own soul to try and work out what it wants to be.
It's so hard to make decisions for yourself, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it is, really. And so it ended up being very, very curvaceous and, very kind of, cocoony, and I don't know, and so it felt soulful. And we have this big 6 meter high kind of brick wall that I put a hanging system on for all of our art, and I wanted it to be this kind of curatorial thing that could change over time.
That sounds fantastic. And I think listeners will echo my sentiment that we can't wait to see pictures of this extremely ornate one that's on the metaphorical drawing board at the moment.
Yeah, it's so good. It's about to hit planning in like a week.
Get ready, council.
Well, that's the thing. Like, we have, because we do so much work in the inner city, like the council, we have such a good relationship with them, because they know that, we try and be collaborative, and we provide them with absolutely everything. We're not trying to hide anything. We're trying to be emotionally intelligent and actually kind of, make their job as easy as we can. And so now I heard from someone that they like get really excited and like they fight for the job. They fight for who's going to get to run our job in the different councils, because they know they're going to be really yummy.
Well, that's fantastic. It certainly can dispel a lot of those neighbourhood character discussions that misunderstand, mischaracterize heritage for just stagnation.
Yeah, I think that we try and be generous. We're on unceded Aboriginal land. Like, we need to be generous, and we should be collaborative with neighbours and protect their amenity in the same way that we want ours protected. And so, I think neighbours like our work because we pull away from the edges, and we treat them with respect and dignity. And I think that's what architects should do for everyone.
Hear, hear. Agreed. Take me back to the beginning of Wawawa.
The beginning was, so Scott Woodward is my husband and co-director of Wawawa. So we had met and worked together at Cassandra Complex earlier before, and there was quite a few lingering clients. That practice shut down. And so we kind of started off the back of that with those existing clients. And we worked for 4 years in our kitchen, which was great. And we had a lot of students, and so they would just come into our house and we'd be making pasta for lunch, and it kind of was this strange existence, really. And then we finally decided to get a studio. So we got one on Rathdown Street in Carlton North, which made us feel adult and like we should have done it way earlier. I remember Peter Millat, who's the director of 6 Degrees, saying, just what are you doing? Like, hire a student and get a studio. Like, that's what you need to do to start a practice. Like, you need to do that immediately. And so, and that was great, because one of our mantras was to engage with the public and be open and transparent. And so having a shop front felt good, because people could see what we were doing, and it was, we had one of our biggest clients very early on just walked into our shop and was like, I'll have a 6-pack of architecture, thanks. Basically, like it was good. Like, that was our Mary Creek house, a big sort of turret, beautiful house. that we did that I'm really proud of. But basically, yeah, she just walked in. And so it was meant to be that kind of transfer and openness, and that was good. So some of the team, you know, are still with us that worked at Rathy. We had a cat who was the neighborhood star who like lived at the studio. But yeah, it was nice. And then, you know, so we stayed there for another 4 years, and then we moved into Claire Cousins building that we're now in Collingwood. That's you know, a glass brick. It's a beautiful studio, and when the team first got there, they hugged in the toilet because at Rathy we'd had this like outdoor toilet that you had to run to when it rained, and then you had to step on this particular bit of marble to not get your feet wet. When it was just, on reflection, it was like workplace drama, but everyone was really excited when we had an indoor toilet.
And a proper office.
And a proper office, you know, with proper everything that just didn't leak.
Was the Rathdown era when you did your YouTube series, If You Were Mine?
Yes. Yeah. So that was the kind of, so yeah, If You Were Mine, yeah, it was a YouTube series. It basically came out of a client wanting to swap architecture fees for a town planning permit. They wanted to swap town planning for TV training. So, and I was, you know, into entrepreneurship, and, you know, I was really fascinated by how to communicate architecture in simple ways. And so I was like, yeah, I'll do TV training. Like, that sounds fun. And so I did this whole thing with him. He coached me on how to present to and talk to camera. And so I was like, well, may as well use it for something. And I figured that most architects design these kind of dream homes. And I was like, well, maybe I would talk about what I would do if a house was mine. You know, I was obsessed with renovations. And so I looked at the Robin Boyd Australian Ugliness. He'd done these like little sketches of all the different housing typologies, all the different styles of homes. So I picked a Californian bungalow, a kind of Victorian boom era house, a Spanish mission. I looked really awkward in the Spanish mission one, so no one has ever seen that episode. But, you know, there was cream brick, there was orange brick, and I basically went and found really yummy examples of them and did these curbside reviews. So I stood there and said, if this house was mine, I would do X, Y, Z, and put them on YouTube and then put them out into the world, and then hoped that people with, you know, that style of house would see the video and then contact us and be like, hey, I really like the sound of this half-wit. Like, let's do this thing. Let's rumble.
Did you get any calls from If You Were Mine?
So the Tiger Prawn House, which was one of our, you know, most awarded renovations, came from the client that saw that video.
Amazing. You never know where things go, don't you?
It's perfect. I mean, that's like this with your wonderful radio show. You don't know where it's going to lead.
It's true. This is the 51st conversation.
I'm so proud to be the 51st.
Thank you so much. It's like that second half century block.
Correct.
That'll come faster than I thought. And you've kept engaged with media. You did a brief bit of podcasting too.
Yeah, I did podcasting. I had a podcast with Nick Brunson. It was called Gert because he was in Perth, and so it was meant to be sort of Gert by sea. It was all about entrepreneurship, business and life. That was a bit of a COVID love child. And yeah, I did a TV stint as well on community designs at Channel 31. So that was fun. Like, went around to a whole bunch of community facilities. It was funded by different councils. And I just talked to architects about, you know, their council project. And I sort of fell in love with public buildings in a way, and kind of thought that I could actually do that during that TV, you know, stint that I did, because we'd only just done renovations up until that point. And so I was kind of a bit like, I was looking around going, I could have done that better. You know what? I could have done that better too, that bit. And, you know, yeah, this space would be great if it had no columns in it. The columns sort of get in the way of this great public space. So yeah, in a way it was kind of that inspired us to sort of maybe, you know, use different muscles and try and get into public work.
And you're in that space now. How was that transition? How was that?
It was slow. My dad was on the board of a footy club in Narre Warren, and he was talking about how they'd commissioned a draftsperson to do a renovation on their footy club. And I looked at it, I was like, it's ridiculous. Like, this is a terrible design. Like, can I do it instead? And he was like, no, like it's already done. I'm like, but can I do it for free? And he was like, okay, you can do it for free. I was like, great. And
Listeners never do that.
I mean, it is a sort of, if the hill that you're going to die on is around procurement, it's an interesting conundrum. Like, how do you get into work if you've never done it before? And so I sort of thought, well, I'd worked at Lab, as I mentioned, on like 50 failed competition entries. I sort of swore that, well, we would never do competitions when we launched, because I was so kind of, I didn't see the value of that expenditure of human capital. And so, I sort of thought, well, if we can do a really good design and get bipartisan political support from both parties, then we can get the project funded, and then we'll take our fees from that. So that was my plan. Even if you do a competition, they generally cost between $20,000 and $100,000 anyway. 20 for smaller competitions. And so I thought, well, we'll invest 20K into doing it. That's the sort of business acumen speaking, but really at the time we're like, we're just doing it for free, right? We were young and we didn't have any experience. And so, we went to the club, we listened to all of their stories. We listened to what was important to them. How could we maintain what was, that sense of nostalgia that they really loved in the club, and how we could keep that and galvanize that. And I think they had all these like wonderful streamers in their old room that was kind of a crusty space for old men to drink, basically. And a catalyst for the renovation was that there was netballers and the junior that don't use it. And so we kind of developed this idea that it needed to be cheap because we had no money, fun, for the kids, and then classy for the ladies. And for the netballers, and that was that's the mantra or the lens that we use to do everything. So, to create streamers, we used acoustic boards that didn't need to be cut; they could just be like screwed in place, and they created the streamers. We worked really hard with one of the suppliers to not have any columns, so we worked with a truss factory to make it a columnless thing, because I'd remembered that was something that I really hated from one of the community designs episodes. And that was, we did a tour of quite a few of 6 Degrees' projects. I really loved their work. So robust and kind of idiot proof. Like everything is kind of, made of real materials and real kind of, it can't be headbutted by any kind of drunk dude or something. And so, we kind of riffed off a lot of that and created this very cheap structure. We built a whole thing for $750, and that ended up, which is obscene for a public building.
Unimaginable, certainly in today's money. What year was this?
I think it got shortlisted in the public category in like 2017, 16, 17. So even like it was cheap for then as well. Yeah. And so I think it was up against a $10 million building. And so we were really proud of that shortlisting, because it had taken a lot of years to get to that place of, and a lot of political advocacy. So there's photos of us, standing with a model next to a politician, trying to convince them, and that the political machinations and were of interest. I kind of love the kind of spatial, machinations of power, and how architects can engage with that in a meaningful way. At the same time, I was involved with the Institute, working a lot with their kind of build quality campaign to bring in apartment standards. So at the time, Melbourne had no apartment standards. We were trying to convince anyone who cared that, the Sydney model should be employed here. And so worked with a lot of just cold politicians, went and met them where they were. Like I'd seen on Twitter that they were at this particular market, and went and down there and stalked them and chatted to them about that Melbourne needed these standards. And so I was kind of interested in that, architecture's role in that. space.
It's huge advocacy commitment. Huge.
I think it was like, you know, early on just trying to work out who we wanted to be and what we wanted to do. And I think, you know, we always knew that we wanted to advocate. And, you know, I feel like we're really just evolving what it is that we're advocating for. Like, and that sort of changes over time. And that feels good. Like what we're advocating for now is obviously quite different. But, you know, still that same strength and same kind of, you know, passion for what's right. And, yeah.
You're citizens as well as architects.
Yeah, I think that we have a responsibility to kind of, you know, repair country and be mindful of how we can use our skills for the betterment of communities and solve spatial problems. And yeah, believe in that. That runs deep. I think in a lot of architects as well, though, that's not unique. I think that feels really correct.
Yeah, so that's definitely something that runs through the profession. And then you get the dichotomy, is it a service or is it a good? And those questions get unpacked. I'm interested in that commercial decision you made that, in effect, you were going to recoup the cost, you weren't going to recoup the fee, you weren't. You were making an investment rather than working for free. But you believe that this football club really deserved a great design. And it was that opportunity, that gateway into public work, that you were then able to satisfy the complexities of the procurement process and say that we've done a public building.
Yeah.
Here we can do another one.
Yeah. Yeah, we were able to get on the construction supply register, which is basically something that says that we're, you know, we're valid. Yeah, we then got into doing schoolwork from that, you know, from that building in a way. We were able to, you know, show that we could, you know, a level of thoughtfulness and, you know, people love and hate the VSBA, obviously, which is the Victorian Government School Authority. So, you know, the procurement arm of government schools. And but I guess like we really did progress from like a small practice into a medium practice, like during that COVID time, with the help of, you know, the VSBA, with the help of the government schools. But also we decided we would become B Corp certified during that time as well. And so we put a lot of investment into that, and that helped us, you know, write procedures and strategies and, you know, all of the kind of admin that we require to like actually sort of get on that construction supply register and sort of get that public work. So in a way it all kind of happened, you know, in alignment. So it means that B Corp, you know, for people that don't know, is essentially, you know, a certification that's for businesses, not just architecture businesses, to meet the highest global standards of social and environmental sustainability. So, you know, you've got companies like The Guardian and Keep Cup and, you know, they're literally everywhere. Impact Investment Group, Small Giants, Small Giants. You know, you know, I really believed in that. We had very early on, I saw this like, or I read this quote that was like, it was from Bill Gates, and he said if he had $1 left, he would spend it on PR. And I remember thinking at the time, when we were super broke early on, like we've only got $1, like we should spend it on PR. And so on marketing, and yeah, so we hired these kind of like business coaches at the time, and they were B Corp, and I'd been really passionate about it ever since. So probably since, you know, 2012 maybe, I was like really determined to always be B Corp, and at the time there were no B Corp architects, and so we were the third.
Yeah.
Whereas now there's heaps because I've been evangelizing the idea.
I've heard it's a bit of a cult like that gets quite promoted, but it reaps great dividends for your staff as well as being excellent for the business and the operation side of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's meant to be just it's accountability, and it's saying I'm just trying to run an ethical practice. I kind of feel like all the tropes of our industry would be removed if everyone was B Corp certified, because it's basically just, you know, baked into the DNA of our practice now, and it's in our constitution. We're like legally obliged to follow these rules, and I don't know, they just kind of like pay people what they should be paid. And, you know, and like we have a really good paternity parental leave. Thank you. Like we pay super while people are away because, you know, we believe in, just all the different little things that I think make life good. We had, again, another mantra that was like, we want to create the practice we'd wished we'd worked at when we were students. And so, yeah, I think I wish I'd worked at a B Corp office.
That paying it forward is so important and so inspirational. Thinking about all these business structure frameworks, I'm interested in, do you have in any way a split, or do you see it as a continuous and a holistic approach to how you do your private work, your renovations and your residential projects, and the public work and the schools work?
I mean, if you go to our website, there's literally a choose your own adventure for like homes and, you know, public work. And so that was sort of deliberately done at the time to signify that we did both, because in what was going to get people to think of us as doing public work. I was trying to rack my brain at the time, and I'm like, no, this will signify that we actually are like manifesting the move into both, and you know, and to create content that was relevant to both. That kind of felt right. And so like I think we see Wawa as a big umbrella to do a lot of things and to change over time. And so even when I co-curated the architecture conference, like that was still really under the umbrella of Wawa. It wasn't me and my personal brand. You know, it's not like I started a separate website and was like, this is me and my advocacy. It's like, no, Wawa is a big sort of machine that can handle a lot. I mean, it's a medium-sized practice with 12 people in it, so it's not a big machine, but, you know, it can be a vehicle to do all the kind of things that we want to do and be a reflection of us. So really, you know, I love that it's evolved so much over time already, and like I want it to keep evolving and to be fresh. And there's one particular person in our studio, Isabel Moy. She was with us since she was a student, and I feel as though I just have to. She's so wonderful, and I just keep trying to evolve Wawa to be better and more interesting, and so that she stays. You know, I kind of feel like I want the same as Zoe, who's been with us for so long, and she's been, you know, on long service leave. She's just the most incredible powerhouse architect, and everyone looks up to her. And you know, she just knows way more than me about a lot of things, and you know, I just want to keep it interesting for them as well. And so that's you know, there's big sort of reciprocity there.
That's lovely. That's really lovely to hear. That split you also carry through into your social media. You've got a separate one for architecture and a separate one for interiors. What does that mean? What's that about?
Well, the interiors one was my personal account. And then I kind of, you know, we did this big strategy session. I'm like, okay, what are our goals? I'm like, okay, my goal is a $10 million house. And then I want, on the sort of public side, you know, because we do multi-res and some student accommodation, I want to do a hotel. So I'm like, they're my two kind of big goals. And so, yeah, to kind of get that, you know, $10 million house, like you know, we have to be doing and be seen as much more of a like wonderfully interiors kind of orientated practice, as well as architecture, and offer curation as well, which is something, you know, I've got so many friends that are artists, and you know, I love going to galleries, and I realized that we were just picking artworks for clients for free and that we probably should be, you know, offering that as a proper service and really embellishing that side. And so I have a personal account that now has like 100 followers, which is fine. It's private and it's really just my, you know, kid pics essentially. But yeah, we made a call to, and that's managed by Ruby Shields, who's just incredible. And she just goes to town, and she's allowed to do whatever she wants on that account. And really it's with the aim to, you know, to pick beautiful artworks for clients and do all of it. So you know, all the architecture and then all the interiors. And it's what we were doing anyway, but it's just more a targeted kind of mechanism to communicate that that's what we want in the future.
You use the word yummy a lot.
I know, it's such a bad habit.
What does it mean for you?
I don't know, just I guess something that feels, you know, sensory, and something that is joyful, something that feels good, and it like, I guess, evokes, you know, all the feels.
It's the same feeling as when you eat something yummy.
Exactly. It's
The architects should do that.
yeah, right? Like, I don't know. I think I think we take our role, you know, we're trying to do big, serious things, and I believe in that. But I think we also take ourselves too seriously as well. And so I guess I realized that by using language that's, you know, that's more accessible and that's more evocative and, I don't know, and more playful, I feel like maybe it's a point of difference, but really it's just kind of like, how do we just have fun with it? We've only got one life. Like, we should fill it with fun.
Here. That fun that you bring to the residential clients, I do want to come back once more to the topic of procurement. Hearing more and more about architects moving away from traditional tenders, especially for housing and smaller or, you know, comparatively public work to residential projects.
As in tenders for resi projects?
Yeah.
Oh, we've never done a tender for a resi project. Absolutely not.
Wow.
We just, no, like, people come to us because they want us, and they want what we can offer. They want the journey that we can take them on, and
I mean for builders.
Oh, as in for builders, right? Yeah, I mean, it changes. It changes with the season. Really, it depends. Are builders busy, or are they not so busy? And we make a call, and sometimes at the start of a project, the situation is one way, and then by the end, we're like, no, I think you would get a better price if you did an open tender. You know, when potentially our advice towards the middle of the project was, no, we'll just do a negotiated tender or whatever. So I don't have a fixed way. I think we're just trying to get the best outcome and the best thing built. So we'll kind of, you know, what's that expression when you like
Go with the wind.
go with the wind? Yeah, you see where it's blowing or whatever. So
Yeah.
that's more our strategy. I don't really mind. I just want a good outcome. And we have a whole range of builders that we love and use all the time as well. So it's also what suits them. And yeah.
And what suits the client, what suits the market.
Yeah, we try and wine match. Wine match the client, the personality of the client, to the personality of the builder, and then, you know, what each builder's kind of good at as well. So if it's a brick house and, you know, someone has a brick background, is chosen. So yeah, bit of art to it, I'd say.
It's like matchmaking, really. Like
Yeah, it is.
Really,
You're dating. I say that to clients sometimes. I'm like, you've got to choose the right architect. Like, you are dating this person.
yeah. It's all about relationships.
Yeah. Yeah.
All about relationships. Do you get some lingering client relationships where they might call you for advice on what scarf to pick after the project's done?
I mean, we have a lot of repeat clients as well. So I feel like, yeah, we have very long relationships with our clients. So, and that's fine. Like, no, we don't. I remember Claire Cousins saying that, yeah, a client was asking her what towels to pick, like, a lot of years later. We haven't really had that. But that's also me. Maybe they're going to the team. I'm not sure.
That just highlights for me the importance of relationships, and that people aren't just investing in a home. They're not just investing in an asset. They're not just getting $11.30 back on architect's fees that they spend in that capital appreciated value. They're actually buying 2 to 3 to 4 years of our life.
Yeah.
They're buying really, really serious time there.
Yeah, it's true. It's a big investment. So yeah, I think, and that's why we choose our clients very carefully as well. Now, we do a bit of a test. Like, if they were to say that their spirit animal is a polar bear, they're not the architects. You know, we're not their architects, right? Yeah. Like,
a white fluffy rug, it's a no-go.
No. And that's the thing. Like, we, you know, sometimes architects will handball clients to us as well and say, these people, are for you. Like they want color, they want texture, they want they want that playfulness, and then so we'll often handball off clients that we, suspect just want something that's quite, black and white and neo-minimalist or something. And so we're like, look, we're not a match. Like we're wanting to wine match, for everyone. And so, I don't know, also that spirit of generosity within our industry is something that's really important to me and that I love.
Yeah, so important.
Mm.
I want to come back to some of the ideas about identity that you've been sitting on at the moment.
Yeah. I think I don't know. I think as I'm turning 40 next year, and we're always then going to be 15 years old. So I feel like it's sort of, I wouldn't say it's a kind of a crisis, midlife crisis, but, I think it's a nice moment to kind of reflect and think about what it is that we've achieved, and then, what does it all really mean, and who would I be without it anyway? And I don't know. I think that, there's a lot of architects that are leaving architecture, and I think I just realised that I'm just such a die-hard architect in every way, and it's so sort of baked into who I am. But, really, you are just innately worthy. It's sort of, you are the house, and then really it's the veranda around the sides that are the inputs. But yeah, I don't know. And I guess I've been doing a lot of leadership training and like personal growth. I'm into somatic healing at the minute, which is just so
Awesome.
fun. So the nervous system, and which I realized as an architecture student is very activated, especially when I did architecture. It was a very intense time to be an architecture student. You'd have, your drawings ripped off the wall, and there was, I guess it's just sugar-coated abuse, basically.
Yeah, it was a really, really horrific culture.
Yeah, it was. And so sort of coming out of that, it was very much in a flight or flight sort of mode. And then, and then I had my kid. And again, that's like a very intense, like adrenal response. And then, just trying to soothe that and just actually kind of be a bit more calm. And, that I feel like our studio is a lot calmer. And I don't know, it feels nice to just kind of relax into it. We've been, I'd say it's a very relaxed culture in our studio. We don't really play music, and no one has their headphones in really. It's just, everyone's just yabbering all day and talking about everything. And it's nice because I consider it like a teaching office, so that all the conversations are out in the open, even about money. If we're going through a hard time, everyone knows. If we're going through a good time, everyone knows. Like we celebrate a lot in the studio. We celebrate the small wins. Because I think, the big ones are hard to come by, but the small ones are worth, making everyone's day. And we have a practice manager now who just cooks all the time, which is really good. All the snacks. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just trying to have a nice life. And, it also, I think when I worked a lot as a student in a lot of different practices, and, that was hard as well. I feel like the culture of being a student was hard. Whereas now I feel like there's no real, it's really hard to get a job as a student. Like it's really sort of shifted. Whereas it was quite easy, when I was going through uni, which was really fortunate because that was it was very important years for me.
Would you say it was easy because of the economic situation, or the culture was a bit more exploitative and therefore willing to take students on?
Yeah, we were cheap. We were cheap. I remember, my first job I got paid $150 like for a month or something. Like, and I was like so excited. I was living at home, and so it was, I was able to do that through privilege, really. And but yeah, like I worked from first year. I worked at John Waddle Architects, FMD Architects, Cassandra Complex and Lab. And I don't know, I just learnt so much and just fell in love with architecture like all the time. And it was just so different from being a student. Whereas now I feel like students are almost as expensive as grads. And so that's why there's not really room for students now, because people just get a grad instead. And I've been trying to to work out ways of rectifying that, because that was so important to me. So but it's hard. It's going to take some sort of infrastructural change.
I'm really interested in how you've done all these things and pursued these lines of curiosity across different forms of media, across your own professional development, now somatic healing, which sounds really exciting and really, really positive, that are all shaping and contributing to your life as an architect and to your life in practice. Do you believe that those experiences make us better designers?
Yeah, of course. I mean, even, I'm really into acupuncture, I probably do acupuncture like once every 2 weeks. Like, I'm obsessed now. And I developed this really incredible kind of yin-yang like diagram for how we would move through a project with, form and function. And rolling, I don't know, so it's just, that informs our methodology statement that that we now use, that clients can really understand, like, civic clients. And so I'm always looking for, how do you bring these sort of outside interests and the learnings, how do you bring it into architecture and make architecture richer?
We have to keep looking outside of ourselves, outside of our discipline, and continue searching, really.
Yeah.
Did you find that quote from Bill Gates was true? $1 left, spend on PR?
Yeah, I mean, where, interest rates are going to go up again soon, it's not going to get better, in terms of borrowing power. We had a lot of projects go on hold at the end of last year just because they weren't able to, access the funds that they had when they'd gotten pre-approval when the project had started. And, we're shifting again to definitely pushing the marketing piece as well now, because I feel like I don't know whether it's like a sense of hypervigilance or like some sort of superpower that I've cultivated from somewhere, but I feel like I can see the future a little bit. And, I feel like, alongside what everyone's saying as well, that it's going to be a bit of a hard year the rest of the year. So we're really about to dial up our marketing in a really quite significant way, which I'm really excited about because I love it.
Where do you think the future of architecture is going? Well, you've got your crystal ball out for us.
Yeah, well, I'm patting that crystal ball. I mean, I think the next 5 years will be radically different. Like, I think AI is just going to completely change the way we operate. And I don't say that in a doomsday way. I say that in a kind of excited, like what are the opportunities? I already see it now. We all see it in our jobs, and so I guess I'm excited for what that'll bring and how we can participate in that. And I don't know, just not being scared of things.
How are we going to use all that freedom we have with the grunt tasks out of the way?
Right, like, and I just think, especially as a kind of smaller practice, like, we don't want to be doing the grunt work. Like, we want to be doing the dreamscaping. And so really it's just kind of allowing us to potentially deliver buildings that we couldn't have in the past, actually. So we might, we don't need an engine room. We potentially don't need to collaborate with a big practice. Like, we've been doing quite a few competitions at the minute. I reneged on the competition thing.
Oh, really? They at least paid competitions.
They're paid competitions. And so, but it's kind of, maybe in the future, we don't need the workhorse to deliver the big thing. We can do it ourselves. And so I feel like that's the optimism.
And that forward thinking, I think it really connects to your entrepreneurial mindset and your interest in that sort of innovation, because too many architects are afraid of technological innovation and leaning into technology to helping support business development or even efficiencies.
Yeah.
In that opportunity.
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's the way that we deliver things does seem clunky to anyone that looks, right. Like, it just it'll change really rapidly, and I'm excited about that. Like, we shouldn't need quantity surveyors. Like, we should just have a price. assigned to our, and that's very close to being a reality.
Ooh,
Yeah.
interesting.
That's
Well-
episode, 200 or something when I'm back in.
There's another foreshadowing. I'll look back. I'll remember this conversation, and we'll see what episode 200 is about.
Mm.
But that's the power of BIM, isn't it? The ability to extract all that
Yeah.
quantity data
Yeah.
and bring that all forward.
Yeah, I think that we won't have planners soon.
Town planners, you
Yeah,
think
town
that
planners.
system will be automated
Yeah.
completely?
Yeah.
Is that good or bad?
I think there's no good or bad. I think there's just, new and better ways to work. I think that, I'm sure that someone's working right now on the algorithm to just run a, look over res code envelopes, and that is just currently being invented right now. And so that won't have to be a manual thing. Then it will just be about, conversations about what's important.
And that's exactly it, right? What's important? How do we stay centered and stay focused on the things that are impossible to quantify, the things that are impossible to measure with AI, those that are intangible, those big ideas. And we've covered immense terrain in this conversation already, which I absolutely love. And I haven't asked, what are some of the really big ideas that are close to your heart, or you find what keeps coming back to?
I guess like how, if we consider, our next project, our best project, how do we just keep dialing it up, I guess, and that's the exciting piece about this project that we're working on at the minute. It just is so ornate, and it's just so playful. It really is just an absolute kind of dream project. It's in Clifton Hill, sort of Fitzroy North, and I don't know, I guess the role of ornament and the role of decoration is something that I guess we've been thinking about in that space. But yeah, the big ideas, for us, we're working on Richmond Primary School at the minute, and we're working with a lot of elders in that, and just to how to embed such a deep sense of story listening and storytelling within our projects. It's such an honour to work with these gorgeous humans, and it's such a privilege to be in a place where we can influence, kids. And so that's why we love schoolwork in general, I think, because, we design for kids, families when they're in their homes, and then it seemed like a no-brainer for us to just translate that Resi DNA into the schoolwork that we do. And so, we work with wonderful landscape architects to reference country and to really repair a lot of the sort of asphalted, playgrounds that are around, and how can we kind of revitalize that and bring in, a lot of sensory water play, and, and then how do we pull that inside and, provide kind of infrastructure for, for curriculum integration. And so how do we create, how do we facilitate it being an active building, a live building that, that can celebrate culture and a multiplicity of perspectives and, and as
pluralism in architecture is so critical.
Right. And the economic empowerment piece as well, how do we kind of, tell, through the specification that we do, through the choices of materials, how do we select ones that, that are, designed by First Nations artists or whatever. I don't know. I guess the bigger ideas are around circularity, regeneration, repair. And then I guess our lens is always that playful nostalgia. So how do you kind of overlay collective memory and a feeling of inclusiveness that comes along with collective in-jokes? And I think that maybe that's the kind of nuance from the practices that I'd worked on. We're trying to be soft and like how do we be inclusive to everyone and provide safety, and you know, what does that look like from a design perspective, and you know, and from a resi perspective. You know, the office spaces that we're designing at the minute are cozy and comfortable, and you know, the student accommodation are all like Wes Anderson themed, which is fun. And then, you know, I just really wanted to use these like birds of paradise. And then I was like, no, like, you know, I realized that the site was along a kind of tributary. So there's a water course like underneath our site essentially that should have been earthed, that was covered. And so it was like a nice reminder to be like, no, it needs to engage with country and tell that war story, and how can I do that, and how can we use it as a tool for advocacy all the time. And even though I'm like, we can put the birds of paradise upstairs in a pot.
Somewhere else you'll find a spot for them. Well, I'm mindful of the time, and thank you so much for bringing us into your world, into this universe of ideas. I think it's a perfect segue to ask my last question, and that's, what gives you hope?
Just the people that I meet and the deep conversations that they're, you know, open to being vulnerable enough to have. I love going deep as quick as possible. Feels good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Monique.
Thanks for joining me for another evening of radio architecture with Ilana Razbash. This live show was broadcast and recorded in the Radio Karim studio on Bunurong Country. You can replay the show wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in and supporting community radio. Take care.
Oh, g'day, it's Ash Davies, and when I'm driving around the Mornington Peninsula, I always listen to the vibes